Hey, if you're listening to this or watching as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I want to let you know a couple things. First of all, this particular podcast is going to be longer than usual. Second of all, even though I'm talking about the election, this is a nonpartisan discussion. We're not bashing any candidate. We're talking about the impact of the election on all of us and our ability to build wealth and walk in abundance, not necessarily on who we think should win. Okay. And so I hope that you'll hang with us as we talk about surviving today's election and the coming weeks ahead, where it's going to be a lot of rigmarole with such a close race. We're expecting it to be a lot of he said, she said, they say they're cheating, they say they're fraud, and we're expecting it to really take a little bit of time to settle out. I could be wrong. The last time I thought that was going to happen, it didn't happen. So I could be wrong for sure. All right. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to group coaching. If you are watching or listening to this as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, normally we use the Thursday nights as part of the podcast, not the group coaching. The group coaching is very private. It's private, but it's group, so it's an intimate group. But what stays here, what happens here stays here, except for that one where everybody agreed that I could post it publicly, which was actually really cool. If you're listening to this as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, or if you're listening to this as part of the group coaching portal, I want you to know that we absolutely, absolutely, absolutely want to have you join us live. And these group coaching calls are very, very near and dear to my heart because when I was getting out of $800,000 debt, I started off with books. I started off with books that I could get for free at the library. But then when I needed a little extra help, I couldn't afford one-on-one coaching. And so I'm very thankful for the mentors who introduced me to the concept of group coaching. And it took me a little while to get used to it. But now I'm like, oh, I love this format because really, quite honestly, everybody's there to get their own benefit and they're there to get their own questions answered. And they're not there to take notes on you or to tear you down or to make you feel bad about yourself. So that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And what we're going to do today, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I encourage everybody under the sound of my voice to join the group coaching program. Or if you're part of the one-on-one coaching, you automatically get group coaching. Or if you've paid for one of our courses, then you automatically get group coaching during the duration of that course. Amazing. All right. Some announcements that I have. Our Women Building Wealth Together 10th annual conference is going to do something special, y'all. We are renaming it to the Women's Wealth Tour, and we will be in Tampa this year. And we're going to move this Women's Wealth Tour around. We'll probably move it to earlier in the year just to facilitate traveling somewhere and not being during the holidays like it has been. That'll be our Women's Wealth Tour. And I've got to get out of the habit of not saying Women Building Wealth Together or the Building Wealth Together conference. It's the Women's Wealth Tour, but it is our 10th annual conference. So I'm very excited about that. We will be rolling out the new version of the Women's Wealth Matrix. Finally, finally, finally. All of that said, all those announcements said, what we're going to talk about to kick off our group coaching today is we're going to talk a little bit about the election. Now, I did a video on the poop emoji and the Trump tiki torch statues that showed up on the National Mall. And if I get time at the end, I'll go ahead and play those. If I don't get time at the end, I'll splice them into this recording when it becomes released as a podcast. But what I really wanted to talk about in light of all this is how the election itself has been crazy making for so many of us. And so many of us have felt like we don't even know what's night or day anymore. We don't even know who our friends and family are anymore. Like we're seeing a whole separate side. We're seeing a whole separate side of our friends and family that we never saw before. And it can be very overwhelming. And today's the worst. Like I'm going to tell you right now, I'm one of those annoying people that has been calling people in the morning like, hey, are you going to go vote? Do you need a ride to the polls? Do you have everything you need to go vote? Here are the resources. Here's how you get your free ride. Yes, if you're watching me from Georgia, I'm one of those annoying people that has bothered you 20 times this morning. Now, and the only way I'm going to stop bothering you is if you tell me you voted, or you ask me not to call you back, or you tell me you moved, or you tell me the person I was calling for deceased, in which case I'm sorry for your loss. But yes, I am that annoying person. Why? Because I care about my values being reflected in the vote, and I have a list of people that supposedly share my values who have not voted. So I am doing what I can to help the election in the way that I can. There are other people who've analyzed the election and they have decided that they are not going to participate in the election, nor the campaigning, nor the support for any party, not even a third party. And that's well within our rights to do, because quite frankly, in my opinion, y'all, in my opinion, both parties stink right now. I did want to talk about it. And I wanted to talk about a couple things. Okay, so for one, the election is going to be today, but unless it's a landslide and the polls are not looking like, the numbers are not looking like, nothing that I have seen indicates that this will be a landslide. Now, people could turn out and surprise me, but so far it doesn't look like it's going to be a landslide, which means we're going to continue to be inundated with election madness for a couple weeks. And so just like today, I'm going to give you some tips to help get through this madhouse of a day, but those tips will also apply later on as well. And so let me go ahead and start that now. I've got these tips from doing some research on websites like Psychology Today, as well as some others. And it's very, excuse me, I found it. I found it very interesting that most of the websites talking about how to get through the election day were actually satirical. And I'm like, that does not help me to be all negative and sarcastic. In fact, sarcasm, y'all, people say sarcasm is being grown and being elevated in your thinking, but actually it's a sign of insecurity, and it's a very poor coping mechanism for dealing with the issues around us. But today is a madhouse of an election day, and I know I'm contributing to it by being one of those people that calls folks and says, hey, did you get out to vote? My records show you haven't gone out to vote yet. Here's how you can get to vote. Here's how you can find out more about the issues. If you need a ride, here's where you can get your Uber voucher. You're like, I'm that gal, and I'm that gal because it's important to me, and it helps me feel like I have some semblance of control over a situation that I really don't have much control over. Regardless of the outcome of the election, I need to know in my heart that I've done what I can do. Now, there's others who will have and like I said earlier, will have analyzed the entirety of the election and decided, I'm out. This is ridiculous. This is a cesspool. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Okay. And I know that there's been times when I've been in that space myself. And so, all the answers are right as long as they're done with intentionality. Whether you're voting or not voting, whether you're supporting this candidate or the other, I know that I have my particular leanings, and I know I struggle to understand how others can have their leanings. But you know what? Others struggle to understand how I can have my leanings. And the more I talk with other people, the more I begin to understand. And so, we're not going to make this a political discussion today, but what we do want to look at is the impact of this politics on our ability to walk in abundance. And so what happens for a lot of us is all the stress and the chaos. It's not just the stress and the chaos of the election. It translates into stress and chaos in our bodies. It can translate to stress and chaos in our minds. And all of that translates to stress and chaos in our pocketbook. Because what do most of us do? No, I won't even say most of us. What do I do? And a lot of my friends do when we are stressed out. Oh my goodness, we go out to eat and we go out to shop. Can I get an amen? We go out to eat and we go out to shop. We go out to eat and we go out to shop. And then we look at our spend plan and we're like, and I've been teaching people how to get out of debt since 1990. Y'all. And so for me, I'm just like, yeah, if I mess up in this area, I know others do. And that's why I wanted to bring and do some research to you. That is why I wanted to bring to you some research on how to get through this season. I probably should have done the research earlier, right? But I didn't think it was affecting me until I found myself like being very, very like just stressed for no reason, and just trying to scroll through, and oh my goodness, I can't believe this side said this, and I can't believe this side said that. And I actually got banned from a group for telling the truth. Like so I'm one of those weirdos that will go to any of the political rallies that I can get to because I was in the Air Force for 23 years and I was a high rank, so I didn't feel like I could be partisan like that while I was in the military. So I'm trying to make up for lost time now. That's one. Two, there's so much misinformation that goes on. I want to be ground truth. I want to be able to say, I was in the stands and here's the video and here's what it really looked like. And you say nobody showed up, but here's all the people that were here. You say that this happened, but that didn't really happen. Here's what really happened. And both sides are committing the same offenses, y'all. It's so frustrating. But so I posted, somebody put some misinformation. I was like, well, you know what? I was there. And here's what really happened. That's so I got banned. I got banned from the group on Reddit for I can't post, I can't do anything because I posted ground truth and they've got all of these fake pictures designed to incite people and make people angry and make people's blood boil and make people frustrated. And what happens when we're frustrated? Guess what? The same thing when we are stressed. We go out to eat or we go or we stay in and eat stuff we shouldn't be eating, so I'll add that caveat in there, and we go shop and we buy things to make us feel better, or we buy things that we think are going to be a solution, or we buy things that we can think are going to up level our lives and make the problem go away. But the problem isn't going away. The only thing that can go away is our response to the problem. And how we handle politics in this country. If we don't learn how to handle ourselves despite the chaos that's going on, it directly translates into our ability to build wealth. And let me tell you something, it is not a coincidence. Now, I'm going to spare you the conspiracy theories, and I don't want you getting on the internet today or the next couple of weeks to go down the rabbit trails. But when all of this election dust settles, I encourage you to go out and do your research into what the top um, what do we call them? The highest earning people who have gotten together and decided how they want to shape the world. A large part of shaping the world to their liking is to keep many of us poor and angry. And if they can get us angry, it's easier to keep us poor. Why? Because we will spend money without thinking. We will take action without thinking. So during this election day and the next couple of weeks to come, as either side's going to be like, you're wrong, you're cheating, I'm going to give you these 5 tips, okay? The first one is to watch for messaging that gets you all riled up. When you are reading something, watching something, hearing something, and it's getting your blood to start boiling, and you just want to get angry and you just want to punch somebody in the throat. I know nobody else wants to ever do that, but I know I do sometimes. Pay attention to what's going on. Pay attention to what's going on. It doesn't mean you got to turn off the news. I don't watch a lot of the news anymore. I only watch it, honestly, I only watch the news now so that I can record what people are saying so they can't backtrack later. I mean, they will backtrack later, but I'll have the proof, right? So I'm not saying don't watch the news, but what I am saying is pay attention to when your feelings are being manipulated. If you can tell that this thing is trying to manipulate your feelings, then you can take action to keep your feelings back where they belong. So my mug says Jesus is Lord, right? Cash is king, Jesus is Lord, right? Well, in my book, Jesus is Lord. So I don't want to watch movies or things that make me cheer. They make me want to cheer for sin. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever seen the movie Spanglish. And there's another one, it's a race car movie, and I love cars, and I love fast cars. But there's movies, and there's another one with Sean Connery. It was a good movie, but then I got to the end and I was like, wait a second, I can't cheer for that because they pulled off a big heist. And so like some movies are like really pushing you to really feel like you want this sinful thing to happen. In Spanglish, what it is the guy was unfulfilled in his marriage and he had a Spanish nanny, and the movie was pushing you to want them to have an affair because she was such a nice person and he was so mistreated by his wife. Well, I can't get with that. Now they didn't end up having an affair, which is good. They came this close to doing something they couldn't turn back from, and she definitely made sure that nothing went further. So I'm good on that. I'm good on that. But the way that the way that it was pushing, does anybody know what I'm talking about today? You can drop me a DM and explain it if you know what I'm talking about, because maybe I can explain it better through your comments. But the movie or the book or the podcast or the clip pushes you to make you want to feel a certain way that's not aligned with your values. It's important for us to pay attention to those times so that we can understand what's happening. And I personally, as someone who pays attention to that a lot, I'm very, very much a big fan of reminding myself, don't believe every thought you think. Don't believe every feeling you feel. Don't believe everything that comes to you, because it's not always you. And it's not definitely not always God, right? But as somebody who myself, I pay attention to that, I find it happening over and over. So watch for messaging that's designed to get you all riled up, get you all in your feels, and get you all angry. If the messaging is designed to get you all angry, there's probably manipulation behind it. It doesn't mean that they're not telling the truth, but you want to look at what kind of truth they're telling. So, for example, there was a recent Trump rally, and they showed photos of a movie where the military was being trained, like basic training, and the PI was yelling in their face, right? You bunch of blankety blankety blanks, and you're nothing. I'm gonna make you a man, right? And then they show the next one where there's some military people who were dressing as transgendered, or they were dressing in drag or something like that, and they kept going back and forth and back and forth, and I'm like, I just retired from the Air Force, and I worked with the guys in CENTCOM. Neither one of those illustrations is reflective of our military, okay? And it was just interesting to me, because I already had that ground truth, but I already knew that what this was playing was wrong, but the entire crowd was getting riled up. Doesn't mean that the concern isn't valid about the softening of the military. I think it's a very valid concern. However, we have to look at what's really happening behind those. When people are presenting the truth in power, it causes you to think, and it causes you to reason. Just like the scripture says, let us reason together, or let's go line by line and precept by a precept. It's not about getting you so angry that you aren't thinking critically, because that's what's happening in the anger and in the frustration and in the chaos. When we stop thinking critically, the Gen Zs and some alphas, I guess, are starting to have economic power. They're getting scammed a lot too, but for a different reason. They're getting scammed from inexperience with the world. My generation and up is getting scammed because we are no longer taking an active role in our thoughts. It's the scariest thing. It's like, wow, I thought they were creating these devices to keep the young generation from learning how to think critically, but it's happening with the older generation too. So be mindful of that. Somebody did y'all. I'm not even going to show it. I don't even want to give it the airtime to show it, but I might have to. I screen recorded it on my phone, so nobody can go back and say they didn't do it. Somebody put together a deep fake of Martin Luther King talking about how Donald Trump is the right person that we need, and how we need to stop trusting the Democrats. I was like, what? But I know I have examples on the Harris side. I'm just drawing a blank right now. But there was one that really made me mad. It's the one I got banned from the comment, like, hey, I was there. That's not what happened. I was just like, wait, what are you banning me from? For? I'm just telling you the truth. I'm just saying, if you want to have a strong argument against your opponent, use this one. And I went to the same thing with a Harris rally. I went to a Harris rally, and it was the same thing. It was the same things. It was the same misinformation. All you do is switch the names. And I'm like, how you do that? But anyway, let me move on from that. I spent way longer on that than I intended to, and I really do want to get to your questions, but I also want to make sure that I get this podcast content recorded. Okay. Also, some of us need to probably stop watching so much news. I said in the last one, that doesn't mean you have to stop watching news, but some of us probably need to stop watching so much news, because um it's taking up our time, and it's putting us in energy cycles. Okay. And I didn't put this in the podcast post because I didn't know how to explain it in a concise, pithy way, you know in words, to people who don't understand. But anybody who's been with me on my podcast or my teaching for any level of time, I'm very big on our energy. And so what happens is when we watch this news thing, they're saying the same thing over and over and over, and it just gets us in another negative loop, and we get angry or we get negative or we get frustrated over and over and over the same things. And what we're effectively doing is we're blocking ourselves from being effective because our energy is tied up in this other thing. It's tied up in this watch loop. It's tied up in this reaction loop. And so if we will just draw back, if we'll just draw back and be intentional about when we watch the news or when we watch the polls or when we check on how things are going, if we will just draw back and make, maybe schedule, hey, every 2 hours, I'm going to see how things are going. Every 3 hours, every hour, every 30 minutes, whatever works for you. But let the rest of that time in between be time where you are energetically focused on your future, energetically focused on your dreams, energetically focused on taking your life to the next level. And I already mentioned this, but this is definitely one of my tips for making it through the election. Don't believe everything you see, hear, or think. Misinformation is everywhere. I would never have believed the amount of misinformation that has been posted by people that I know who have degrees and they have professional jobs and they are capable of critical thinking. Rational, educated people over the last 6 months have posted some of the craziest things. And again, it's switchable to both sides. Like there was one person who posted one thing and I thought they were supportive of one candidate, and then I looked at it some more and realized they were supporting the other candidate. It was the same thing, y'all. So much information. So don't let these falsehoods live rent-free in your mind. Don't let these falsehoods live rent-free in your mind. Okay? You want to make sure that if you don't have, how do I want to say that? If you don't have the time to fact check it, this is what I like to say: fact check or forget. Like there's so many things I want to post, and I used to put them on Facebook and make them private and say, I'm just hanging this here so I can go back and research it later. The reality is later never comes. The next thing comes to fill my time, and I rarely ever do that. So in what I do now is if I can't put it in a to-do one day list, I let it go. If I don't have the time to fact check it and post something that I know is going to be accurate or accept energy that I know is going to be accurate, I let it go. And the problem for us is a lot of times things come to us. We see a meme, we don't challenge it. And so I'm going to encourage you, don't believe everything you read, hear, see, think. Challenge it. This pops up, says that this happened. Challenge, did that really happen? And if you don't have the time to verify whether it really happened, literally say to yourself, either out loud or in your head, I am choosing not to accept this right now. I'll come back to it later, or I won't, but I'm choosing not to accept this right now. I am choosing to accept truth right now, because you don't know what's true. And a lot of what's going on out there is not true. Okay. All right. One more thing. I've got two more points. Remember, your stress does not change any bit of the outcome of this election. Now, I have to qualify. So in San Marcos and in Arizona and in PA, and I can't remember where else all, there have been threats to people saying that we're going to get you if you are a Harris supporter, or we are going to come and we're going to, we're going to tear you down. Now to me, they read like hoaxes. Like, I don't even know what a Grand Dragon in the KKK is, but my research did not turn up any validity to what, the Trump Grand Dragon, right? So they might be hoaxes. But the problem is, you don't know what really is a hoax and what some person might decide to act out. So while I do stand by my original statement that I posted early this morning, that your stress and your anxiety don't change one bit of the outcome of the election, being aware of your surroundings and being vigilant to keep you and your family safe can. That doesn't mean we stress out about it, but let's just make sure that we're taking precautions. Let's make sure we're not walking down the street with our head in our phone and making ourselves a target. Let's make sure that our eyes are up as we're walking around, we're looking around, we're making eye contact with all the people so they know that we know that they see us and we see them, right? We are making ourselves less of a target because most of the time somebody wants to commit a crime, they're going to go after somebody who's more of a target. And we make ourselves less of a target and we improve our own safety and security. Okay. But that aside, me stressing out about this election and whether or not Trump's going to win or whether or not Harris is going to win or whether or not Kennedy's going to, no, he pulled out. Who was somebody else that's still in it? Whether or not they're going to write in JJ Conway and I'm somehow going to mysteriously end up being president. Like there's no sense in stressing about any of that stuff. Okay. Uh, we need to understand that there's only so much we can do about it. And if it's important to you, then do the things. And if you don't feel comfortable doing the things, then don't do the things. But those are the only things that you can do to make a difference in the outcome of this. Your stress doesn't help. Your stress does not put either candidate in the office. Your stress and your anxiety doesn't help anybody else feel more comfort or more at peace. All it does is disrupt your energy, keeps you from walking in abundance mindset, possibly spurs you to eat more than you should, eat out what you shouldn't eat, or shop more than you should. Okay, so we look at the personal economic impact. And collectively, a stressed culture behaves collectively in ways just like stressed children and abused children. There are ways that people act when they are under too much stress. And those ways are usually not good for our long-term economic health. So just remember that, okay? Once you've done what you can do, great. But once it's done, you know what? The process is the process. And I'm not thankful for all the smear campaign. I'll say that much. I'm not thankful for all the smear campaign, but I am thankful for the democratic process. All right. Okay. Lastly, and this is the best one. If you, like me, are very sensitive to these issues and you've been activism, if you've activating, activing, I don't know what the right word is. If you have been doing things for the party that you want to see win or for the candidates, I actually don't vote along party lines. I consider myself, well, I am an independent. Somebody joked about, oh, on the fence must be an independent. Well, yeah, because I pick and choose based on who's got the issues and the plan that I need. I don't vote straight party lines. But for the candidates that I want to see in office, I will work to do what I feel like I can do. And I can't do everything. I'm not going to get up and speak at a rally, not at this stage of my life and not at this stage of my husband's career, right? But maybe 10 years from now, who knows? But what I can do, I do. And because I've done a lot, I am very interested in the outcome. So the more you find yourself carrying on about the outcome, the more you find yourself intention about the intention, not intention like I'm going to intentionally live, but intention like I'm stretched thin because I'm so nervous, I'm so excited, and I'm so whatever big feelings we feel about I'm experiencing tension, let's say it that way. Build in some fun times, some calming, relaxing activities, just something to help us decompress so that we do not go to bed on all of this tense and excited energy. Because even great things are huge stressors that can lead to depression. And that was one of the things that really surprised me when I had a student who was a behavioral scientist. Things like getting married and buying a house, there's such great things and such great milestones in our lives, but they actually induce just as much stress as losing a loved one or going through a divorce. So it's very important for us to take stock of who we are and remember whose we are and find ways to decompress and create our safe space to be free of the misinformation and all the chaos that would try to get us off of our game. Because what that ultimately does then is derail us from our wealth abundance plans, from our wealth building plans, and from the daily peace and abundance that we want to walk in. Okay, I know that was a lot. When all the questions, I'm going to switch now to asking questions. So those of you who are listening to me as part of the podcast, you're not going to hear the quick Q&A part. And if I don't have enough space in the podcast to add the poop emoji table and the tiki torch, then I'll put the link in the show notes where you can access that. But I do also want to reserve time for questions if we have any financial questions from the people that are live in the group coaching. And if you're not live in the group coaching, I encourage you to become a part of the group coaching. You can do that at jjclink.com/group. As always, you can download the podcast at ladiesofwealth.com. And you can find me on YouTube and other social medias, at least for now, at JJ Knows the Way. JJKNOWS the Way. All right, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go and play this, and then we'll go ahead and get out at the end. Let me see if I can make this big screen. The placard reads, "This memorial honors the brave men and women who broke into the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021 to loot, urinate, and defecate throughout these hallowed halls in order to overturn an election. President Trump celebrates these heroes of January 6th as unbelievable patriots and warriors. This monument stands as a testament to their daring sacrifice and lasting legacy." And I love how the placement of this pretty much mirrors the size of the Capitol right there. So I'm going to get out of the way and let some other folks take some head-on pictures, but let's have a little chat about this lovely little memorial. Is there anything on this side? Nope. Hey everybody, it's JJ Conway. As you can see behind me, there is a new art installation on the National Mall that is causing quite a bit of stir. I'll show you a close-up of it later, but right now let me tell you a little bit about my interaction with this particular event. You know, one of my last duty assignments in the military before I retired, I was in charge of the bomber flyovers for all your events. I know, what was an Air Force physicist doing being in charge of flyovers for Super Bowls and other sporting events? Oh, I'm not allowed to say Super Bowl. The big game and other sporting events, right? Like, I don't know. But there is a story behind it. We'll tell you that some other time. However, I remember being the only person in the skiff when Fox News, which is the only news channel the guys played in there, had this thing from President Trump about how they should go on January 6th and storm the Capitol and how they should be an uprising. And he was calling on everybody all around the nation to stage some kind of uprising and protest and take back our government, which he felt at the time was unfairly won by the Biden administration. And so I'm in this secure area, and I'm gonna tell y'all, I have never been more tempted to go outside the skiff, grab my phone, and come back in and record the very often repeating snippets of Trump saying this, because I had figured that no one was gonna believe that he said any of that stuff. But I didn't. But after everything went down, my first thought is, why is everybody acting so surprised? President Trump called for it while he was still president. Y'all, if I'd have known that people were gonna say he never said all that, I would have, if I could go back in time, I would have found a way to get that recording so it could be proved. You know, one of the things that we have to learn how to do is actually do our research. You cannot trust the news channels. You cannot trust the social media. I literally, if you go back on my YouTube channel, I literally posted snippets from both sides of this administration fight, right? Both sides. One has a video, and then people say they said this, but they didn't say that. I have the video. I recorded it straight from the event, y'all. It's important for us to find ground truth. And when we don't find ground truth, it's important for us to dig, because I guarantee you somebody was there. Somebody was here, somebody was there. There's always somebody everywhere. And if you can be that person to be ground truth for someone else, get those videos, get those recordings, because we are in a fight for truth. And my favorite book says that eventually the world will get to the place where everybody's so confused by misinformation that nobody trusts anything anymore except for what's right in front of them. And if you share my faith, and there's a whole bunch of people in this country that say they share my faith, but they haven't read that book, y'all.
If you share my faith, I encourage you to get into Revelations, because all these things that we're seeing are starting to come to pass, have already been prophesied. That's a discussion for another day. All right, here I am at Freedom Plaza. I don't have time to do as detailed of a video as I did for the other one. But interestingly, there's not a big crowd here like there was for the other one. This is the Donald Trump Enduring Flame. This monument pays tribute to President Donald Trump and the very fine people he boldly stood to defend when they marched in Charlottesville, Virginia. While many have called them white supremacists and neo-Nazis, President Trump's voice rang out above the rest to remind all that they were treated absolutely unfairly. This monument stands as an everlasting reminder of that bold proclamation. I can't even say it with a straight face. All right. I'm JJ Conway. Thanks for watching. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Okay, that was fun. Thank you so much for being live. Those of you who were alive, I hope that you will come back next month. And if you are a private client, make sure you schedule your appointments, because it's getting into that holiday season. And guess what everybody wants to do during the holiday season? We want to forget about our spend plan. So I'm here to help everybody remember about their spend plans, and you can schedule those appointments with the links that you have. Everybody has different links depending on the packages that they've purchased, and so make sure that we touch base and help you keep in touch with your goals. All right, that's all I've got for you today. I'm JJ Conway. Y'all take care and be blessed.